Michelle Ashford, another genius. I'm so lucky, a brilliant writer, a strong woman in control. I love that too. Um, yeah, I met with her and she was like, this is the story. Here's this big giant book. We want you to do this, but we want it to be something, to be the truth, but to have something about it because it's a feminist story told back in the day. So that story took place around Washington University, which is not in Washington, it's in Missouri, right? And what I loved was not just the dynamic of having a woman as strong as the man, a woman who didn't finish college, still as strong as this doctor. Of course, the love story that ensued and that intrigue at a time when nobody was telling that story. Brilliant actors, brilliant. Michael Sheen, Lizzie Kaplan, both brilliant in and of themselves, separate from each other, but together it's a powerhouse. Beau Bridges, Hollywood royalty and huge for indigenous rights in California. Caitlin Fitzgerald, this beautiful muse, brilliant writer herself. And there was many people. And so I was so into it. The fittings were sublime. I imagine Michael Sheen's mind. I remember when he first came to the fitting, he was like, I just think of a minotaur. And I got it. I got it immediately when thinking on William H. Masters. And then he always had headphones in. And I said, tell me. He goes, well, I brought some music for the fitting. And it was Arvo Part. And oddly, my sweetheart was listening and playing very loudly Arvo Part at home. So it was kind of like perfect. Very, very dramatic music. Lizzie, and he just wanted to be William Masters. That's what he wanted. But the creepy, funny thing, glitchy thing, is that he said, my mother, William H. Masters, always made all my bow ties from the time I was little to the time I was an adult. So I'm like, well, that's it. I have to make all your bow ties. And then as the stories were so dramatic and serious, even though there was the playfulness of sex and the funny things that happened because of it, at its heart, it's a story of a doctor who really wanted to have people have babies, people that could never, right? And I think the Virginia Johnson of it all was how to interject a kind of ease into getting there through sex, right? Well, there was that. Lizzie was playful and serious and funny and a very individual muse that I think looks like no one. She's stunning, right? Caitlin is a beautiful model muse from that time. Her body's perfect for the clothing. As we went on, and as I was doing the research, I would go to Michelle Ashford and say, man, the clothing in the costume houses, while beautiful, are too bright and poppy and funny and technicolor, full of technicolor. I don't work that way. Forget me and my ego, the story. It doesn't uphold the story to have all these bright colors. And so I said to Michelle Ashford, I really want to make these clothes. I know it may feel impossible timeline-wise, but I have magicians. And I can create magic. And if you let me do that, I could tell the story without bastardizing, the frame and making it something it's not. Because we're not trying to trick the audience. We're just trying to show compassion for these humans with a very novel idea. And that's what we did. And, we touched upon civil rights. We touched upon, the Shah of Iran and his wife. And that was a true story. My tailor on the job, Hossein Namdar, who I met when I first moved to LA, made suits for the shop, 20 at a time. So it was very integrated and very connected. And there was this whole subset of a story that I was completely into, that I kept saying to Michelle, please, let's tell this story. And she was like, Anne, there's not enough time. But, you know, that university, there were many young men, poor men, who were prostitutes at the time. They tried to touch upon it, who were gay, who couldn't be because of the times. You know, there were many sort of hidden stories that I was trying to beef up in the costumes, because I love a good conspiracy theory. I love the untold story, right? And so I'm always going to suggest that in the costumes. But we had Alice and Janney, totally open. They don't make clothes in her size in the costume houses or even whatever. So I would make her clothes. I would make Ann Dowd's. I made Ann, in 8 hours, a dress for some award show. And she was like, oh my God, Alice and Janney, I remember this because there was a reporter there that day, I think, from the Times. And we had a dress for her for the scene. And I probably drove my crew crazy, but it just didn't feel right. And I said to the director, I know this sounds improbable, but I need to make her a new dress before we shoot. You don't say that to anybody for the week, let alone for the day, the first setup for the day. And they were like, this is your amount of time, go. And I was like, you don't think I can do it, I'm gonna prove you wrong. And we did it. And it made it to camera, and the writer was like, writing like it happens every day. It doesn't. But that's who I am. Like, if it doesn't organically fit into the story, you're doing it no service. And Alice and Janney loved it. She was like, this is amazing. And we had a great time.